You left me a message today, but I said I'm going to be here coming. So don't need to respond. I'm going to see you, give you a good Shabbos.
I do my job. You're not
Blech atah, nechum shekel nilvari.
me. Close to 300 people I called.
Mamish? Wow, no wonder you're going to have to start from Sunday soon.
Bravo.
Blech haba. Okay, Siman Reish Nun Gimel. Siman Reish Nun Gimel. Sif Yud Beis.
Yes?
Yes. Kol mokim shenizbar she'asal lahashis tav shenizbar shemachin nesoyim abu v'shah afil v'shoigi k'shak hasham she'isav v'shemuter aser. We were talking about the Chazal minat HaTorah. You're allowed to put up a pot on the fire right before Shabbos. Although it's cooking on Shabbos, you didn't do any mice on Shabbos. However, midrabanan Chazal gave certain gedarim, because certain rules when you're allowed to put the pot on, because they're worried about the gzeh Hashem yichata b'gecholah, maybe you will stoke the coals. So we said there are a few ways how you can deal with the shaila. One is by something is meichel ben dusoi. If it's partially cooked, so then already we're not concerned. You're going to come to hurry up to try to cook to hurry up the food to cook it for the meal, but it's already going to get cooked. It's already partially cooked. Other thing we said, you could do gruf or ktuma, shovel out the coals or cover the coals with ashes. Today we do that with the blech. If you take that option, a third option was we said you could throw in if you have a fleisha gecholent, and putting it up right before Shabbos in a crack pot in a slow cooker. It's not going to be ready until the morning, until the middle of the night. So anyways, it's not going to be ready for the night meal. For the morning, it's anyways going to be ready. You have a whole night. So there's no purpose, no fashash that you're going to be mechat to be cholim, lamar b'shuli.
Slow cooker, I don't think you open it to check. Leave it, and this is closed the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah, no fashash. If it's meat.
Mm-hmm.
It's not meat, right? Before Shabbos, you have to put on a blech.
Mm-hmm.
What we do is, what I do is I put a piece of silver foil, I line it with silver foil, the slow cooker, and I put silver foil. Yeah, and I leave the silver foil in there. I leave it
inside,
in there.
usually, or outside?
Inside.
Yeah.
I leave it in there, and that's it.
No, they have something special. I forgot what's in it.
Yeah?
They put it inside, and then forgot the name.
Uh-huh.
I know,
For
my
the
wife said
crack
it was inside the cracker. Like a white thing, not a foil.
Very not healthy to cook something itself.
Inside.
When the food hot, so
Yeah.
silver paper is very bad.
So this is
mixed up.
this is the silver foil between the pot and the heating element.
So then nothing happened.
No, it's just a
It's like
blech. It's a
like
blech. That's what it's a blech.
I'm saying people don't realize they
Silver foil is not
cook the silver when it's cooked. It's very not healthy to eat.
Can be mixed up with the food. The silver foil can be mixed up with the food.
Now people use the parchment paper.
Oh,
Yeah, parchment paper. That's
special for that.
That's the special. Yeah, that's what I buy
Yeah.
when we make crackers.
So anywhere it says in this siman, she'aser to be masha tafshul, to put on a tafshul, it's not meichel b'soi. If you made an imaver v'shah, if you did put it on and it was not meichel ben desoi, even if you did it by mistake, sheshak Hashem, you forgot it there. You forgot that it wasn't meichel desoi. Or are you shahayisav shemut? You thought it was mutter. Meaning you knew you did it, but you thought it's mutter to do this. You didn't realize the halachas. What's the din? Aser bein loy bein lacherim am shemintinu b'mitzay shav v'deishiat. It's aser for him and for other people until you wait Matzah Shabbos b'chdei sheyasu, The time it takes to cook
Food
it.
doesn't become dry. The
No.
food stay kosher, just
Knas.
knas.
You have to wait Matzah Shabbos till the time it takes to cook it.
Right.
When you put it up, how long did it take till it cooked? Like an hour. You have to wait Matzah Shabbos an hour till you can have it from Alav Malka.
So this way, people are not going to do Shabbos.
Right. Because they anyways not going to be able to eat it Matzah Shabbos.
You're not winning anything.
Yeah. Now, what is the Shir Maichem Adusai? Sifyat Gimel. Shir Maichem Adusai. Yeshayim. Some say. This is Shittas Rashi. Shukamei Shlish Bishul. The third cooked. Aroi l'chol adam. It's a third of what's roi for everyone to eat. Yeshem, some say, shu kamoi chatzi bishuli. It's around halfway cooked. That's the sheet of the Rambam. Linyan halacha, who should we follow like? Normally, when it comes to something which is with the Rabbanon, we follow the lenient opinion. So over here, we should also be making and say shlish bishul is enough. Third is cooked. We call makim mishum chaymer Shabbos because of the strictness of Shabbos. So the chizar lachatchila she is bashal chatzi bishulim roider. You should be careful lachatchila to cook halfway cooked out of Shabbos.
Okay, I will go like the humble.
Yeah, it's actually based on the earlier achrayim, but yes. If there is none of the ways to be mattered, we saw a few ways to make mutter, a blech, or maybe it was raw meat, right? Before Shabbos, but if you don't have any of those atadim and it's not meichem with the soy, then you need to make sure it's meichem with the soy. You should have to attach the whole inyan and mispashal shpeshumayim. If you put it up and it only cooked there's only a third cook from before Shabbos, it's fine, b'diavad. And call shasat chak k'b'diavad dummy. Anytime you find yourself in a shasat chak situation, like b'diavad. B'diavad means it was done already. Shasat chak doesn't mean you did it already. You're going to do l'chatchila.
Right.
But since it's a shasat chak, so if you're traveling somewhere and you come to some place, you're going away for Shabbos, and you don't have a blech handy with you, and you're going to cook some food, you come up late. If it's going to be ready shlish b'shulei,
We had a case over here that Yankel Akarovich prepared chunk for Shabbos. He came quite early and he put it on the. It was fully cooked. He put the blech, he put the fire. We come on out to the kitchen to Daven Mincha, right? So 18-minute pass. Looking underneath this, fire shut off. Somebody opened the door from this, it was windy, and the fire. So that's our Marazal. 18-minute pass, and the chant is fully cooked. It is. He said you could rely on Rabbeinu Tam to call a goy and turn it to turn on the fire.
that's what he said? Rabbeinu Tam?
Rabbeinu Tam.
So you got to go?
To light it. But the chant was fully cooked. Not like the Bedouin side, it was fully. And the next in the morning in Shabbos, everybody ate it in this.
It tastes very good.
No, the point is that here is.
I would. The Rav is the mother to Asa, and his nephew's bar mitzvah tonight.
Yes.
Right, that's why he switched. He asked to switch tonight. His brother Michi's son bar mitzvah. So, but I agree with the psak. Come over. But I'm thinking of a different type of logic. What he's saying is you rely on the opinion of Ben Tam that it's not yet Ben Shmashas.
Yeah.
But in Chabad and
not
other places,
a goy to call a goy.
a guy, right? But I'm thinking that even if since we don't hold like a Ben Tam, it's still mutter
There is some people
because it's Ben Shmashas.
right.
Ben Shmashas were matter Amira La'akum if it's a tzayich mitzvah. outside of Gadol. So there's not going to be any challenge in the shul.
It was a tzarich mitzvah or tzarich gadol because the person who made kiddush was for Yotzet and would be very upset if it was
Right. Okay. That's a Gadol. Yeah, I think the Rebbe was right.
So it wasn't. It was a Sophic Shabbos. It's like Ben Hashmos. That there was the time.
Yeah. It's banishment. According to the Bein Tam, it's not banishment yet. It's fully day.
It's day. Yeah.
Fully day.
Yeah.
According to the Bein Tam, you can smoke a cigarette, right?
You see Borough Parks and those go big.
Yeah.
It's good you catch it, there's no fire there. Somebody catch it. No, it's good.
We know this a lot right now. So
Yeah, it's can be learned, yeah.
I was upstate once, and the electricity went out. There was a blackout, and all the food was sitting on the fire, and the blackout went out right before Shabbos. So those who had pure gas stoves,
it's continue on.
continue working. It's
Right.
not electric.
Right.
Everyone that was connected to electric,
And the blech
It's a problem.
and cook.
it went off. But then late on Friday night, sometime Friday night, it went back on.
Right. What happened at Shabbos?
If your food was still there, it's still good.
Right. No, but it doesn't call it cooking on Shabbos because of you. No, you don't do nothing.
You don't do
You don't
anything.
do anything.
You don't touch it. You don't do anything.
I also had once in a summer blackout.
A lot of time.
And I remember the shul with the chazan was a Yosef pump, so he light 5 small candles. That's the only light we had the whole shul. So Baruch Hashem the chazan was davening loud and everybody could follow. It was so
This is a very big issue in Europe. You know, we get Friday night, and the first night of Yom Tif, the night of Yom Tif, they would light candles before.
right.
So what's the issue? What happens at the ending of Shabbos, the ending of Yom Tif?
Before the second yom to start.
No, before Shabbos is finished.
Right. It's stuck.
So why do you see in many communities, Hasidic shuls, they have a meaning that they have a timer that the lights
Shut up.
turn off by Shalosh Shidduchos.
Just to remember that.
And that's how they ate in Europe. They ate in the dark. Shalosh Shidduchos time, it was dark. in the
Borough
shul.
Park, you're still supposed to do that.
Yeah, Borough Park they do that. Got a Moshe
It's
Bolson
optional.
shul. I don't really understand the idea of minig, but that's what they do.
It's all, but there shows it.
Right. The shul do Rabbi Wolfson does it, and the Munas Yisrael.
Yeah.
I know if he does it or the Gabbai does it, but yeah, he's in there in the dark and he's speaking and it's quiet. It's quiet and dark and he's talking. So that's the way it was, and this is especially Negeya Ne'ilah time. Because Mincha, you daven before Shkia. Ma'ariv, you davening after it's over, so you can light a candle. The problem was Ne'ilah, Shal Shivas, okay, so you eat, it's dark, it's not, you're not davening. But Ne'ilah time, you have to daven. And you don't know by heart Ne'ilah davening.
You have the Yosef candles.
So the Ne'ilah, so the Neidim Yehuda discusses this, that people are calling in the guy, and
Or use what is it called? The one with the gasoline that work in 24 hours.
hey, the Neidim Yehuda didn't have this.
Generator.
The Neidim Yehuda didn't have a generator.
Not generator, it's like a candle.
Yeah, Yartzeit.
Yeah, but it go more than 24 hours. 24 hours.
That was probably they had. I mean, why shouldn't they have been able to have large candles?
It's ago that right.
He discusses it. I mean, he has a problem with it that you can't have the guy doing it because because the candles are it's a deraisa. You're not allowed to ask the guy to do. But if it's after Shkia, you could, because after Shkia is bein hashmashes, and like we said before, bein hashmashes, you're allowed to do amira la'akim. You're allowed to have a guy do work if there's a tzarich mitzvah or a tzarich gadol. So you'll be allowed to do it.
I remember reading about the Alter Rebbe in Russia on Sukkot that Chal and Shabbos. There was so much snow, and he said it's chatzitza.
Snow chatzitza?
It was cold, and snow fell on the schach, right? So now you have so much snow on the
Can't
schach.
do anything.
Not that you're not sitting under the sukkah, you're sitting this. You're allowed to go and you're allowed to call the goy on Shabbos and tell him to take over the snow from the schach.
Shovel the snow.
You have to make a broch, you have to make kiddush, you have to go into the sukkah.
Right. L'chor, it's only in Issa D'Rabbanan. removing the snow. What malach are you doing? There's no malach. It's muksa, maybe, but it's not. It's derabanan and sit in the sukkah. The big problem also comes is when you have times, and as we had when you have a big storm, a lot of the sukkahs get blown down.
Flew out. That's it. You have no sukkah.
In Chicago, this happened a lot too.
And you go to Chicago.
I had 2 daughters. We went a lot of this because they come in the morning.
There's no spot.
No.
So, Chol is no problem. You pick up the spot and put it back. But Shabbos, what do you do Shabbos?
Yeah,
Okay.
big
Don't
problem.
eat.
There's no. There's a mitzvah to eat the kazayit in the sukkah.
Yeah. We were looking, my son and I went to look around any sukkah big and strong, was buying one. So we brought some motzi there.
Okay, so Rabbi say,
Maybe snow is part of the
How much?
I'm not so sure
How
about
much? How much?
that. We're gonna tap them.
Maybe.
Just like the Takshitim.
I hear you. Lanai. There it's Lanai. I don't know over here if it's
It
batal.
doesn't matter what it's for. I mean, the mere fact that it's.
Well, the Mishnah says, Pedis Aleh Sadin, Pehan Ashar. The Mishnah says in Sukkah, Pedis Aleha Sadin. You spread out a sudden a sheet over the sukkah.
That's a big one.
So you discussed if it's a nishar, you're doing it because you don't want the leaves to come in.
Right.
There's a lot of cases there. If to look inside the Gemara. Yeah. Have to look into the
I have a
halacha.
sukkah at the shak.
Over there, it could be with more than a tefach. It could be in Russia.
Yeah.
My Zayda al-Shalom told me he remembered that his Zayda sitting in the sukkah with snow knee deep snow.
Yeah, possible. Sure.
Sukkah's time. Sukkah's in Russia, it snows many years. It's snowing already in Russia.
We could have.
Many times in Moscow and these places, it's in Russia, it's already snowing Sukkah's time.
Yeah.
I remember him telling me this. Anyway, so he was the Ruzhin Chassidim. So you remember him telling this story that his Zayda did this. Now, so Rabbi say up until now, Sif Yudalid, we're learning the Sugya of Shehiyah. Now we're moving over to Chazara. What's the difference? Shehiyah is being Masha a pat Erev Shabbos. Chazara is taking off a pot on Shabbos and returning it.
Much more complicated.
When are you allowed to return it?
How and when?
How are you allowed to return it? When you're not allowed to return it? So remember, Shehiyah, it's very easy to remember. You just need to know three heterim. Each one of them are independent heter. One is to have a blech, or number two, or to make sure it's meichel bendu soy. It's 50% cooked, or at least a third cooked before Shabbos comes in. Number three, or you can do a raw cholent, raw meat cholent, a fleshig meat cholent, and put it up right before Shabbos in a slow cooker. See, it's right before Shabbos, a slow cooker, and it's meat. Those three, it's good. Each one of these atain doesn't need the other one. People mistakenly think you need to have a blech and has to make on the soy. It's not true. One or the other is okay. The best way to run the household is to have a blech, because this way you don't have to look, is it Meichem D'Soy, not Meichem D'Soy. You don't have to worry about things. You have a blech, and that's it. You don't have to think about it.
There are most people,
Especially for the balabastas, they get nervous. Is it? No, just put on a blech, and that's it, finished. That's just the eitzah. You're not chayiv to do that. It's just the eitzah. You can leave things on the blech on the fire straight without a blech, as long as it's halfway cooked. Chatzi b'shuli. It's not an issue. Looks funny, maybe you're not using a blech. You don't have to use a blech. Now we're going to learn in Chazara. When you learn Chazara, it's not pashut. If it's Chazara, it has to have a blech. And remember how blech was in those times, the times of Chazal, or up until World War I, World War II. They had it was grufa or ketuma. It means either goydef, you shoveled out all the coals, or ketuma, you spread a layer of ashes over the fire. Those were the methods that you can make blech those days. And you had to have done that before Shabbos if you want to return the pot and fire on Shabbos. You have to do grufa ketuma. By shehiyah, you don't have to. You have a choice. You could do grufa ketuma, or you could do ma'ich nesai, or you could do k'terei chaisa, raw meat. Either one is equally valid. Comes to chazara, it must have a blech, or grufa ketuma, like we're going to learn in Shabbat. Without that, there's nothing to start. You can't put it back on the fire. And then there are other conditions about holding on to it the whole time. Having a mind to return the pot to the fire.
And not putting it down.
Not flipping it out from that pot to a different pot and putting a new pot in the fire. It has to be in the same original pot. The reason why Chazal required a lot of these things is in order to show continuation. Hemsheichias. I had a mind to put it back. I'm holding it the whole time. I didn't switch pots. It all shows we're doing it b'derech chazara. I'm not doing something new over here. I'm not putting a pot in the fire, a new thing. I'm just returning it b'derech chazara. So then Chazal will not worry that it should look like you feel like you're cooking nida kimavashal. Doesn't look like nida kimavashal. It's just a continuation of what I did out of Shabbos. Just continuing what I did out of Shabbos. That's when they were matter you to leave the pot on the fire on Shabbos, to be machzer. Sif Yudalad. Kira, an oven, sheisikuhu ha, that was heated up a kash v'gavava, with straw and stubble, oyafilu begefes v'eitzim, even gefes v'eitzim, even wood, ela shehi grufa o ktuma. However, it is garif akatu. You shovel out the coals, or you cover it with a layer of ashes. V'natal hakadena mela. You took off the pot off the fire, off the stove. Whether it was by daytime, whether it was by nighttime. And you want to put it back on Shabbos. Then this is how it would be mutter. If it's still in your hands. You never took it out of your hand. When you took it off the kira. Until the time that you want to return it back. You held it the whole time. You did not remove the food from that pot and put into a new pot and returning that new pot. You want to return it back in the very same pot that originally was in. Mutter loy lachziri b'Shabbos. Then you're allowed to put it back in the fire on Shabbos. And here he adds on another condition. In bitchila kishenot akdei malakira yibedai tishachzirim achekach. If when beginning you took it off the fire, you had in mind, I want to put it back on. So in reality, we had here so far 4 conditions. Has to be grufa ktuma, which today would mean blech. It has to be oida biyad in your hand. That's the second. Number 2, you cannot return it to another. You cannot put it into a different pot. 3. Number 4, you had to have in mind from when you took it off till you put it back. Shinimsa, if you did these things, comes out. It was never became batul, nullified the original Shiyah of Arab Shabbos. Because you're just continuing it. Since you are planning, you never took it off totally off the fire, you were planning on returning it. There was never a moment that you actually thought, I'm not putting it back on. When you took it off, it was on the nas to put it back on. It comes out that you were never mevatel, you never mesiach das, no hesach das, no hefsik, and therefore it's just a hemshech from before. So it's good. Or if when you took it off at first, initially, you did not have a mind to put it back. Or if you even removed it from your hands one time, you let go of it. Or you remove the food and pour it into a different pot. the original shehiyah that you did Erev Shabbos becomes batul. Because you made a hefsek. And now when you want to put it back on the fire, it's as if you are putting the fat on the fire. The Chachamim were only matter to do chazara, just a return, but you over here cut off the previous shehiyah. So you're now doing a new thing. You're Moshe b'Shabbos l'chatchila. You're putting it l'chatchila on Shabbos. Chacham never allowed that. They only allowed you chazara, not to put a kedera l'chatchila on the fire on Shabbos. Even there's nothing wrong with it mitzad bishul purposes. It's fully cooked. Kagain, for example, shimuvashalas kvarkol tzarka. It's fully cooked. Shem bishul acher bishul. Nevertheless, you're not allowed. More till the same chayes hamadura. Feel the makam shiatz letters by. You're not, since it's fully cooked, you're allowed to even put it near a fire. If you have food fully cooked, you're allowed to put it near a fire. If it's not on the fire, you can put it next to it.
You just keep it warm. You have to wash it.
Yeah. Mikol makim, however, in this case is different. When you're putting it on the kira, kishamida al hakira, you're not putting next to the kira. You're putting it on the kira. Shumakim shederech levashel sham. It's a makim. It's the norm and customary to cook there. As in nidek in vashel chetchil b'Shabbos, it seems like you are cooking on Shabbos. Mikol makim, however, if you did have in mind to return the pot when you took it off, and you held it in your hand, you're allowed to switch ovens. Let's say your pot is on your fire, your stove, and you realize the flame is too low. You're worried your cholent is not going to come out good. It's going to get spoiled. It's a low flame. A big pot. You made a mistake. So you can take it, pick it up, have in mind, hold it, have in mind and put it on a different stovetop or a different fire on your stovetop. Not a problem. Even though it's a larger flame. Havla Meruba Mereshaina has more heat. The previous one, it's not an issue.
In other words, let's say there's stove over here. Here, the small fire and there's a big fire. I could move it from the small to the big.
Correct. And you can bring it to your neighbor. You can do whatever you want as long as you hold on to it. And he has a blech on his stovetop. It's not an issue, even though you're putting it in a higher flame.
If you have a pipe and blech and you have two or three burners on, there was never a question of moving the pot on the blech to a high fire. Why is this any different? Why is there a discussion about this?
So this is the source of it. This is the source that you're allowed to do. What's the question? The question is, if I'm putting it in a higher flame, does it seem like I'm trying to cook it? Because a higher flame.
Well, let's say it's on the same blech. First of all, the heat travels. So on one side it's a little cooler and one is a little hotter. You're allowed to move this.
Okay, but what happens if you take it to a different stovetop?
So how would that be different? You pick it up, you put it down. What if it doesn't make?
Correct. This is the source for it. The source for this thing that's pashut is over here. It's Yerushalmi. It's quoted by the Rambam. This is where the source is, because without this, we would have possibly thought, that maybe if the second fire is hotter than the first one, you're not allowed to do it. Who said? Only to the same level or lower. In Echanami, you're right.
Yeah, but one is cooking. I mean, what?
In Echanami, however, these are all conditions midrabanan. These are all conditions midrabanan that the Chachamim set up. We are not learning anything deraisa in this simon. These are all gezeres midrabanan to keep one far away from cooking. Any chanami minatayr it's 100% mutter.
I've been in houses when you have little.
The main isser of most of the Tanai Chazara, these conditions, is so it shouldn't seem like you're cooking. Shouldn't be like a new, you can't take out a pot from your schnitzels, a pan of schnitzels from your fridge, and put it on top of the fire. You can't do that.
That's the whole. We're
No, schnitzels, it's cold, not a problem. Ein b'shachar bishul, but yavish, it's dry, it's fully cooked. There's no bishul. Midrabanan, you can't put it on. Why? Nida kemavashal. It seems like you're cooking. The gzeira, we don't want you getting comfortable with the fire on Shabbos. We don't want you feeling comfortable. I could put schnitzels on. Okay, you feel comfortable with that. Who knows what you do next? You'll take something else out of your fridge. You'll suddenly pull out a pot of soup and warm it up. You're feeling comfortable warming things up. The Chazal set up certain things. This, yeah, this, not. They said only things that were originally on the fire. And
a lot of take something that's cold, or frozen, and put it on top of the pot.
Correct. Because on top of the pot is different than on the fire.
Oh, so you want to put a piece of schnitzel on the top of the.
Correct, yeah. Challah, schnitzel, dry items.
This is what Ben Zechanovic's wife made, special tools for that.
Oh, by the way, it's going.
If you take the soup out from the blech, put it down, serve everybody, and allowed to take it and put it back because it's all liquid.
If it's
Okay,
warm, but it's warm still warm, you can put it back.
And you let your hand go from the top.
Oh,
Right.
oh, if you let your hand go, you have a problem.
You said, boy, the problem.
That's a problem. So what we're learning here is that when you want to remove a pot from the fire Shabbos, but you also want to take food out, but you want to put it back because you know you're going to have guests or
Yeah.
You have to keep holding it. Right?
hold on to it and put it back.
You have to put it down on the surface.
Right. Now, by the way, it's not clear, like, what does it mean holding onto it? So some poskim want to say that you have to pashat hold it in the air to hold it up. And I even saw one of the poskim say, I mean, Svarim today, they say so, but it's hard for a person to do that all by yourself. You're going to hold it, and you're going to take it shalom out and put it back on. It's a little. You could do this with two people, not one.
Right.
One person holds it, the other person takes out. So he says an eitzah, if you're there home alone, and you want to take some shalom, if you have a heavy pot, they'll take the pot, put it halfway on the table, halfway off the table. So you're holding it here with the handle, you have it leaning on the table for you. But if you would let go, it would fall down. So even though it's not in the air, technically, but since if you would let go, it would fall, it wouldn't be leaning on the table. So that's considered like, it's considered as if you were holding in the air.
That's only your last yachid, or that's
I don't know if anyone argues. It's a svara that wasn't discussed earlier. I don't know if anyone argues, but I would argue to say, like the other poskim, like of Shonazam and Erbach and others, who they don't hold the chlal that it has to be in the air, ba'avir. They hold you to put it on the table and put your hand on it. Keep it as long as you're on the holding it, even if it's on the counter, fully on the counter, and not ba'avir, not in the air. It's also fine. There's a machlokes about it. A lot of discussion about it. Personally, I see many rayas to that way of learning. And I think that's more the minig, that more people traditionally have not been doing balancing acts with it. It was putting on the counter table. You do see more today, people are trying to be machmer and they're doing what other various svarim they're reading are saying, but I don't think that was traditional the minig. That's what I was mavir by Rav once, and he said, we never did that. We put it on the table, we held on to it.
Right.
The source to say that you should hold it in the air is from the commentary of the Rambam on the third parak of Shabbos. Here is Mishnayis Rambam.
Well, you have to check Rav Kapach.
Yeah, very good. Even in Rav Kapach. Yeah. So the problem is that number one, even if this Pirush Mishnayis means what they say it means, the Pirush Mishnayis Rambam is not. This Pirush Mishnayis is not quoted by any poskim. It's not brought in halacha.
Right.
This idea has to be ba'avir.
And the Yad HaChazak, doesn't say anything.
No.
So, yeah.
The Yad HaChazaka B'chlal doesn't say anything. B'chlal is a whole different sheet in the sugya. So I don't.
There was some Mishnayos when he was in his 20s, in his early 20s.
Yeah.
Wow. In Arabic. He wrote in Arabic.
Yeah.
Do you read Arabic?
Why not?
He doesn't have Arabic, right?
Why not to take the
But the Pira, number two, the Pirush Mishnayis, not only is it not quoted by any paskin, I'm saying Shulchan Aruch and all the Noisich don't quote it. This Pirush Mishnayis, they do quote others, but not this one. I am not sure that the Pirush Mishnayis means what they claim it means. That you have to hold it, and there are prominent places that say this. I'm just saying I'm not sure that's really the understanding of the Ram. I could understand the Rambam differently. So Yois Kane, I really don't feel this whole Chumrah is something you need to take up on. I think it's fine if it's on the table, as long as your hand is on it, you can lean it on the table.
What the chisoran that you say you have to? I want to take some food out. I have to move it out, hold it, and take out. Why can I take out the chon straight?
Very good question.
What's wrong?
Excellent
what
question. So the answer to that is like this. This answer is not in the simon, it's the bishul simon.
Right.
Because it's fully cooked, the chum. So what's the problem?
My mix.
But it's fully cooked.
No, maybe some meat on the top
Fully
is not
cooked.
some meat on the top is not so good, and the
So
bottom
then
is
you
better.
can't open the pot and close it. If something's not fully cooked, you can't open the lid and close it. You have a big problem. If someone Friday night went to go see if the cholent is cooking and picked up the lid and he noticed the food is not cooked yet, you can't cover the lid anymore.
You picked up the lid after you picked up the pot.
Let's say Friday night you got nervous about your cholent and you went over to look at it to see if what's doing.
No, but you picked.
And you took off the lid. No.
Only
You
the
left
lid.
it there on the fire.
Really?
You left it there and you picked up the lid.
That's not
He
allowed.
took a look at it. You put your nose in there and you see it's not fully cooked. You can't put on the lid anymore.
It makes it cook more.
What if you?
You're helping it cook.
Yeah,
What if
go
you would pick
faster.
it up?
Goes faster.
Even if you pick it up, and it would be off, and you would not be able to put the pot back
It
in
will cook faster. It's more
because
heat.
now you're cooking it. You're not allowed to put that pot back in. It's not fully cooked. When it's the morning, when it's already cooked, you want to check it to see if it's lost water.
Yeah.
If it's not, make sure it has enough water, which is the common issue with cholents. You don't want it to burn. That's different. That is a discussion about it. Some are matir, some say natu, some say yeah. Reb Chaim no. Ksaysa Shulchan says that the minig is that people were makel always to take a look at the cholent, but that's when you know it's fully cooked. No, the discussion is should I have to take it off first and then take a look and close it? But it's only when it's fully cooked. Or am I allowed to even pick it up and look at it, close it while it's still on the fire? Chaim says he says the oilam is makel, and he explains svaris to say why you could be makel to do it. But remember, we're only talking when it's fully cooked. The shaila you're asking, what's behal v'chol shaila? It's fully cooked. What's the big deal? The answer lies in the shita of the kolbay. One of the later Yishayinim or early Achroinim, Sefer Kolbay, he had an interesting chumrah, which we are machmer l'chatchila to this chumrah. I don't think we're machmer to b'diavad. He had a chumrah that something which is on the fire, even if it's fully cooked, if you're not allowed to stir it,
Right.
because somehow you're stirring it will make it cook better.
Yeah, it's true.
It will make it cook better. And therefore, even though it's fully cooked 100%, you're not allowed to be magus to mix it. So that is why we don't mix the pot, the food, while it's on the fire.
And don't take food.
And we don't take food as a harchaka, because maybe the way it depends how you're taking. If you're taking just from the top a little bit, it's a harchaka.
Right.
But what happens if you stick it in and give a little twist to it?
Usually, what is that normal thing to do?
So therefore, we don't take it off on the fire. Maybe if there's no way to move it at all, and it's so heavy and whatever it is, and the mother's home all alone, and she needs to give the kids challenge, she could be makel. But I'm just saying, in general, we're not makel unless the shatz
I
chak.
think the Chazon Ish
However, you
knows
can
better.
pull it off the fire,
That's what we.
and when it's on the table, you could give it a mix.
Right.
Because the kol by shita is only that hagasa can affect more, mixing affect more, even if it's fully cooked, when it's on the fire. But once it's off the fire, you can be makel.
Well, I think the Chazon Ish holds it's better to serve from on the fire. We don't hold like that. The Chazon
On the
Ish.
fire, better to serve?
Better to take out the food when it's on the fire.
Interesting. What was the svara?
Who said?
Chazon Ish, I think so. What I remember.
Who said?
Chazon Ish.
I don't see the svara. Interesting. It sounds to me like a kula.
I know. what I'm
Rabbi
saying.
Bakula.
No, he's a pakev. He take it off the fire, it's worse. I don't know. I don't
I
remember.
don't know.
I don't remember. I don't have to look
If
at it.
you're, no,
Maybe he had a problem with putting it back on the fire.
Yeah.
You can check it out. You
Maybe he
look-
had a problem
you
putting
look
it back.
You look up
Even
the
if
Piskei
it's
Tshuva al
all
Hamishna
the whole
Brew.
time.
He'll bring down the
Right,
Chavos.
right.
Whatever you
Right.
can find.
Manasa, the Chazon Ish is very mechudishtik, so he's
Yeah,
always
yeah,
his own
yeah. He has a
mahalach. Okay.
Bench coming.
Fancy?
Yeah, 31.
Still need one more.
Yes,
Well, thanks.
No. Somebody will come.
Yeah.
yeah.
One of the interesting things I'll just mention, and we'll go to Ma'ariv, that Rabbi Kiva Eger has very interesting questions over here. In general, has very always interesting notes and chidushim. He wrote notes on a lot of his svarim. He wrote on the Shas. He wrote notes on the sides. We have on the Gillian Hashas on the side of his Shas. He wrote notes. He wrote on the Shulchan Aruch notes when he was learning Shulchan Aruch. So we have those notes.
And Mishnayos.
And he wrote a Mishnayos. Now, these are besides for his Chedushim he wrote in Svarim and his Chuvas that he wrote and the various Svarim he has. Interestingly enough, by the way, in the Lubavitch Library in Crown Heights, they have his personal copy of, I think it's Shulchan Aruch Yeridea, where you can see his notes on the side, and they have an exhibits there, so you can. At that point, it was an exhibit. It was available. You were able to. That was the exhibit they had. It was far in there. They were
You
showing.
could open it up or just.
No, it was like in glass cases.
Oh,
But you were
This one and then
but you were very close to 6 inches away.
No, you see,
You see one page. You see two.
No, the whole sefer.
You see,
How do you see the
No, they had a glass, like a museum, a
Right.
glass,
a
a glass table.
How do you turn the pages?
No,
You don't.
okay, it's open.
Oh, open.
It's this
Okay, you see
open
the
vellum
page.
page.
the page here.
I took a look. It was like a reddish pinkish ink, and he signed. What was interesting was he signed his name after each note that he made.
That is mine.
Akiva. He
Yeah.
wrote it. He finished it. Now, in our Shulchan Aruch, it doesn't say Akiva after every note.
Today.
When he wrote it originally, it said he signed off on each one. He should know it's from
Today
him.
was the Yosef of his son, or Shlomo.
Oh yeah.
Today was the Yosef.
Oh.
Yeah.
If Shlomo was a Blabel's father,
So some people in the shir try to answer when he has a kasha. You can't answer his kasha.
Who is son?
People in the shir and yeshiva, they try to give the Rebbe, maybe because answer will keep it not so easy. He has a kasha, you can't.
You gotta take it. It's not that. Yeah. So Kiyega has over here an interesting thing. He says, "What happens?
Yeah, you can't catch him.
We
on
know
kasha
you
or
have to have
somebody-
in mind. You have to have in mind to return the pot to the fire. We just said Daitil Achzira. What happens in Ruvain went and took Shimon's pot off the fire? He didn't have in mind to put it back. He went over to the stove. He picked it up and he took it off and he's holding it, and he didn't have in mind to put it back. But if Shimon would have came, he was the Balabayis. He would have had in mind because he knew there's guests coming. He knew his family members are going to come later home from shul or whatever. He wants to keep it hot. So whose das do we go by? The das of the Balabayis, but he wasn't the one who held the challenge. Or to go by the das of Ruvain, who was the one who actually took it off,
He doesn't want it.
who didn't have in mind. He didn't know anyone's coming. He didn't think
You
anything.
have the idea by Kabbalah.
This is what Rabbi Kiva Eger says.
By Kabbalah, you have this. You go by the Kohen, you go by the Bailam of the Kohen.
Yeah, but the Kohen, the Kohen had a different mind.
Kama.
It's possible.
And what about the Bailam?
Even if the Bailam had the right machshava, but the Kohen had
What if the Bailam has their own machshava?
Anyone coming? Anyone else?
then it's good.
Discussion, yeah, I think so.
Then it's good. But the Kohen had this.
You learned in the Rambam,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Lamaisa, Kiva Eger says this is a machlokes. Rishonim, he takes Rishonim that have nothing to do with the sugya. He finds Rishonim in regards to
So interesting.
paras chatas, doing malacha. If someone did malacha with a paraduma and there wasn't the owner,
Oh, right.
and he has some other cases in Shas, and he tries to make it a machlokes with Rishonim between Toisus and Abenu Shimshon Derash. And that's totally Zebazeh, right. Lamaisa, what would you do Lacha Lamaisa? Lacha Lamaisa would be Mekel. Lamaisa, it's a Machloikis.
It's not yours, who will ask you permission
It's a
to take it.
Machloikis, and you could be Mekel because it's a Dindarabanan, and as well, we'll see later on, there's a certain sheet of the Ran, that there's a certain heter, he makes more kulas in Dinei Chazara. So b'tzir of everything together, you can make it. But he the Kiveg himself is not Messiah. He just says that this is a machlekes Rishonim.
Make a proof of the Bailam, the owner of the pot.
The Shaila is right now. Could the owner put it back to the pot? Could he tell him go put the pack?
He wasn't home.
Let's say he was by the table. Someone thought he was being helpful.
Okay.
He didn't ask him anything. He went in and took the chalmum off the sofa.
Yeah.
But he didn't have in mind put it back. But the Bailim, the Balabas does want to keep it because he wants to have a mind. So who do we ask to go by? Says Machlekes Toisus in the Rash and in Kotchin. He brings that out, and he wants to compare. And he leaves off like this is the Machlekes Toisus and Shimachor. It's telling this Machlekes, and he leaves off. L'payel the Paskin and Mekel Lamaisa. They say
this is on the Hagos on the Shulchan Aruch you found
right over here on the. No, published.
Yeah, all right, I'll check it out.
By the time we want to find out the Aloch and Rabbi Kiva, it will be Motishav.
One thing he does say is that if Reuben would take the path, this is all about whose das do we go by.
Right.
So the mistake over here was that Reuben didn't have the das that Chazal demands.
Well, he was the owner. Right, he was the owner.
But what happens if Reuben did something worse? Maybe Reuben did have in mind to put it back, but Reuben put it down. He didn't have it anymore holding. Well, the other Tanai is you have to have oid biyadi.
And he forgot.
So he had the dai to the but not oid biyadi anymore. And again, he's not the balabayis. Could he ask for something which is not his?
That's more complicated.
Bichlal, the Kiveger is discussing ein adam oisa davar she'ein shaloi.
Right, that's right.
You can't go and ask for something which is not yours. Metama someone's things or make them yayina. You can't go and take someone else's things and make them tummy. So, Shail over here is, can someone who's not the Balabais ruin it? So the Gabi Machshava, he said that's not clear. Machloikis. The Gabi this, he said it's a Maisa. He put it down. It's a Maisa. The Poil, he did a Maisa. The Maisa is a Maisa. Ain't of them Oisa Davashin Shaloi is whether his Machshava could ask your paytas. But over here, he did a Maisa. He put it down. He ruined it for you.
Yeah.
This is how Kivekel learns. He ruined it for you. You can't put it back. Again, we will learn there is a certain heter later on in certain Shasas Chak situations based on other Rishonim that we haven't yet learned. But inside Iker Halacha, it's problematic. That's how Kiveger explains it.
So
the Mai said for sure a problem. Machshava, he said it's machloikis. If in Machshava you can ask for something, because over here it's not really like you did something positive. You just didn't have Machshava. You didn't have the right Machshava you should have had. Well, Abayis did have the right Machshava. That's a Kiva Eger.
My parents told me that when they were young, they didn't have an oven in their house for Shabbos. So everybody took it to the baking and put it there.
Yeah.
You heard about it?
Thank you everyone for joining, Rabbi say. David, Savi Sapir.
And everybody took his part.
Good to see David Sapir. Good to see you're still with us.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Have a beautiful Shabbos. Thank you, Yashikawa.
Thank you so much. David is here.
What's going on in Florida? It's cold, hot?
David?
Yeah.
They want to know over here, what's the weather like in Florida?
Well, it was certainly about 87 degrees today.
Wow.
So cold?
Wow. You need some of our cold weather.
Yeah, if you could send a little bit, it would be
We had
nice.
60